All right, we're here in southern Middle Tennessee visiting my friend Calvin Garland in his shop. Calvin's a knife maker and a blacksmith and machinist and many other things. So show me your shop.
All right, come on in. It's my little home away from home. But of course I do all my welding. That's my welding table that I built, nice heavy. I like heavy things. Don't move around when you use it. My Holland Anvil, that's my main anvil I use quite often.
How heavy is that one?
That one's a 240 pounder. Greg Hagen, I'm sorry. He sells those up in Holland, Michigan, and they're a real good anvil. I like them. And this is my coal forge I built years ago. I prefer coal most of the time because I can isolate my heats and do so much more with it. And I have an abundant supply of fuel, so I really like the coal for that purpose. And I keep my old hand crank blower close to it because, you know, if a power ever goes out or I feel nostalgic, I can just hook it back up. But I'm working on organizing my power hammer tools.
Working on a new power hammer too, ain't you?
Yeah, I'm building another power hammer. I built this power hammer some years ago. I've been using it now for about 10, maybe 12 years. And I've had to do some modifications on it over time because there wasn't plans when I built that one out on the internet. I mean, there were guys building them, but I didn't know you could just go order plans. And I'd seen pictures of the tire hammers, so I just started building one.
You just started building from pictures.
And so, of course, I was working at a machine shop, so a lot of my stuff is machined and put together where you could take it back apart easily and readily. And it works great. It's a great power hammer. I'm just working on a few things I wanted to change. On my next one, I'm gonna put my tire on the back. And you believe it or not, I'm making it a little bit heavier. The heavier they are, the better they sit.
Yeah.
And but I got most of the parts done. I'm ready to start assembling on my new one.
That's a beast of an anvil.
Yeah, that's my 440 pounder.
200 kilograms.
Yeah. A guy bought that for his children's wedding and up in Kentucky. And his kids got married over it, and then he put it on the internet to sell after the wedding. He said, I don't need an anvil. I just bought it for the wedding. So,
alrighty then.
I said, okay.
That's a new one on me.
Yeah. I guess it's some kind of Scottish tradition to get married over an anvil.
Yeah. I just never heard of somebody buying an enormous anvil just for a wedding.
Yeah. Me neither, but he did.
He went big or went home.
This is my newest gas forge, and a gentleman in your forge group, I think, in Murfreesboro.
Okay.
He builds them.
Mark Webb?
Yep, Mark Webb. And
Mark builds some screaming nice forges.
Hey man, I like that thing really well, and it's the perfect size. I told him what I wanted to do. I was doing hammers and tooling, things like that, and I wanted a forge that would get hot and not burn out so easily. And it does get hot. It's a great little forge.
Nice.
I enjoy it for gas stuff.
And then you got a gas forge over here that's just for knife making?
Yeah, I made that one years ago too, and it's for Damascus.
I got you.
And that's an old design. It's an old design on the blower. Once again, back years ago, I seen that design on the internet and built it. And I built it out. I had some stainless steel pipe, and I thought, well, I'll build mine out of stainless. It's held up really well.
So when you say that's for Damascus, you use that to weld your Damascus?
Yes. I use that primarily just for Damascus, and so I've had to reline it a couple times over the years. And these are my quench tanks. One thing that it's a must for me on my quench tanks is a loose fitting lid, where if I got an oil fire, and these are different quenchants for different stuff. These are knife quench tanks, and that one down there, it's a slower oil. So it's mostly for tooling and stuff like that. Okay. Dyes, I can put heavy stuff down in it.
Yeah, that lid's real nice in case you need to smother one.
Yeah,
smother a fire.
And the smoke too, you know, both those lids are designed real loose, and I clean the tops up real nice where they'll fit good and flat, and it'll put a flame right out, and I like that about them. This was an old well casing, and I guess these tops come on these well casings where you can lock them.
Interesting.
And so I just
it was ready to go.
Yeah, it was ready to go. And but yeah, that's I made this anvil for blades. That's a block of S7. I ordered the S7.
Wow. I guess that's hard enough.
Yeah, And I sent it off and had it professionally heat treated to 54 Rockwell.
Wow.
And so it's 54 Rockwell from one end to the other one. And I made it where it's got it comes through in the bottom, a hole does, and it's got a plate I can slide up in there and put a pin through that ties it down to that block, that stand real good, so it doesn't move. And but as you can see, I have a dirt floor, and my grandfather's blacksmith shop had a dirt floor, and my dad's shop had a dirt floor. So, you know, I realized a lot of the advantages of a dirt floor early in life.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, it's a whole lot easier on you standing on throughout the day.
When
I
you
mean,
stand in front of an
concrete's
anvil.
nice to mount a piece of equipment to, but I don't want to stand on it all day.
well, and that's another thing. Guys say, well, I like my concrete floor because my equipment's bolted down. But I'm gonna tell you, when you get a three-legged stand steadied up on dirt, this anvil
It
doesn't
stays
move.
put.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, this power hammer, I can run this power hammer on this dirt, and I ain't gonna let it hit. But it doesn't shake any.
Of course, you got it mounted to a big old plate.
Yeah, and the
down
plate
there.
basically just, I didn't want it teetering.
Yeah.
But once it got settled in the dirt, man, it didn't move.
Yeah.
And it don't now.
And I like being able. I mean, I like a wooden stump or beam to put my anvil on, and I really like being able to sink that about 3 feet in the ground. And
In my old shop, my first shop that I built in '99 or 2000, it was a 16 by 16, and it was just a lean-to. And I built it extremely heavy because I built it out of what I had.
yeah.
And a friend of mine had some surplus roofing, so I put a 3-inch standing seam roof on it. I mean, it was built like an industrial building.
You'll never be sorry for overkill, whatever you're doing.
But when I moved here, this was a tractor shed, and it didn't even have power. So I ran power out here, you know, and fixed it up just for blacksmithing. But I didn't want no concrete floor because,
yeah,
like I said,
it is nice.
dirt. And I can weld heavy objects out here, and if I got to weld the other side, I can just flip them over and let them hit the dirt. Nothing breaks, nothing chips. But
Looks like there's plenty of room for what you're doing.
yeah, and if I could just, now I got to build a storage shed to take care of.
That's my problem. It's the stuff that you don't use every day that eats your space up.
I even want to get to a point where all my scrap metal is organized.
Yeah,
You know,
me too.
I basically
I'm still trying to learn like what to keep and what to throw out.
right. Well, I make all sorts of things from, and I've been blacksmithing since started in '98 on my own, you know. And but I've been making knives since the 1980s. When I
Okay.
was in high school. My dad done a repair on a Marine Corps knife, a K-bar for a guy that had been through a fire. It was his grandfather's, and had been through a fire and burnt the leather handle off, but all the metal components was still there, but the blade was softened, you know, from the fire. It'd been, so Dad took it and reheat treated the blade, and he put me in charge of cleaning everything up and putting a new leather handle on it, and that gave me the bug.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So you've had it a long time.
Yeah, and of course I buy all my steel for my knife blades because I want a well-known, you know, I want my steel to be a known steel and how to heat treat it and all that. I mean, most every knife maker does, but I do use scrap metal for things. I use coil springs for fire pokers. I make a lot of fire utensils, like that fire poker I made.
Yeah.
It's made out of coil spring.
Okay.
And I don't even, you know, you don't even got to heat treat a coil spring for a fire poker. Just leave it as
Yeah.
it is after you forge it.
And it's tough.
Normalize it, and it's tough.
Yeah.
But
I use a lot of coil spring for just whatever handheld tools in the shop, you know, punches and
yeah.
whatever. So.
This stand I built to get all my hammers and things kind of organized, and I also wanted it mobile because I have different guys that come over that like to work with me, and they might be striking on this anvil. I mainly use that big anvil for striking. That's why it sets lower. You might have noticed that. I guess that's all about preference. Some guys like a great big anvil. They want to get it for their main anvil. You know, like they'll buy this and they'll say 500 pounder is going to be my main anvil, but for me, I found that a 500 pound is too big to work around.
Yeah.
It's like working on my dining room table.
That makes
you know?
sense. Well, and I'm firmly convinced that a 100-pound anvil will do most work just fine if it's tied down to the
Mounted
ground
properly. Yep.
That's where it's all at.
Well, see, I prefer the steel stands over wood.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say, in my first shop, I buried my stump 3 foot in the ground, and I went and had my Amish friends to saw me this nice block of oak, you know, out of the heart of the tree, and they sawn it. They sawn it for me. I think it was like a 10 by 12.
Okay.
And I sunk her 3 feet in the ground, and it looked real neat. I put me a band around the top, but I don't know if you use wood or not, but I never could get that anvil to stay put. I mean, I could lock her down, but after I used it for a little while, it worked loose.
Oh yeah.
Those metal stands, believe it or not, this big anvil, that anvil, the only thing holding them there is silicon. That GE's window silicon. I put that stuff on, clean both metal surfaces, put that stuff under it, and let it sit.
Yeah.
I've had guys with using sledgehammers, you know, striking for me, especially on this big anvil out on the horn.
And it won't move.
It don't move.
Yeah.
But
I made some threaded tie downs for mine, so it doesn't move. But I also put silicone under it, just to give it a good solid connection.
The guys that come over, like I said, I mention them a lot because I got a lot of friends that come over and want to learn from me. But we make our own tooling for different jobs, and all this stuff, you know, a lot of the stuff we've made for punching holes, punching eyes, and fullering.
Need a tool, make a tool.
And yeah, like this one we made the other day, we was wanting a 3/8 punch, so we just took an old ball peen hammer, and I have a die that I made. I call them clacker dies, a swedge die, and I just put it under my power hammer after we drew that out and made us a 3/8.
Nice.
We hadn't done that job yet that we're going to use that on, but I got to get my handle put in it. But another thing I was going to talk about is my wooden mallets. This one's made out of persimmon, and I press these rings on in a 100-ton hydraulic press.
They're not going anywhere.
They got 1/8. They actually have 1/8 interference before they ever go on.
Wow. So there's an 1/8 of an inch.
This ring is a 1/4 inch thick wall, and it's radiused on the inside. And I make this a little bit longer with a taper, and it's pressed on, so you can see the wood's already swole back out as soon as it comes through it.
Wow.
So yeah, they never work loose, but I don't use these just for straightening metal. When I'm doing a knife blade, I'll go through 2 or 3 red heats on a knife on the anvil with this wooden mallet, and it'll remove the dings. It'll straighten it. It centers everything up.
So you're using the mallet from one side and using the slick surface of the anvil to smooth it out. No marks left when you're done. That's really cool.
I figured that out when we were doing a lot of ornamental iron. In the early 2000s, I was working with some friends that had an ornamental iron shop, and we was doing ornamental iron, and you could get a peg or something that was a wide flat piece, and I thought, man, it took all the hammer marks out of that thing. And I actually had one guy done a job for, he brought them back, and he said, these are too smooth, because he was doing an industrial job. And he said the guy wanted these to look like they were hammer forts. He said, so I had to put some hammer marks back in them. I said, okay, whatever. But yeah, this is my little shop. I enjoy it, and this is my get away from everything, you know. Come out here, and as you can tell,
therapy.
I live in a country, quiet community, so I'm the only one making noise I hear most of the time during the day. But I focus primarily here lately on knives. These are a few I've made over the years. This one I made in early 2000s. It's actually a piece of round bar 52-100 that I got from Ray Kurt, you know, when I first met him, and forged it out. This is one I'm working on currently, and I don't restrict myself to any design because you know, that to me this is fun.
Play with different things.
Right. This
Change
is
it
not
up.
how I make my living, you know.
Yeah.
So if a guy says, "Hey, can you make this?" I said, "I don't know, but I will find out."
Try.
So he wanted a Tano, and these are just knives we use every day in the kitchen. This was a ball bearing, and I like my kitchen knives thin. And as you can tell, I sort of like the Japanese influence, except for when it came to these. This is the third one of a 3-knife set that I'm doing for family friend. Well, actually, she's family. It's my son-in-law's mother over in East Tennessee, and her father had passed away. And these are some special knives to them. And this is the last one because this handle is made out of his clothing. After he passed away, she came up with this idea to make my card out of his clothing. And this was his UT shirt that he wore to the games with. And I've never used Damascus with a micarta material, so I didn't know how it's going to look. But actually, I think it looks pretty cool. You know? Because most people use a natural material with Damascus. because it's a darker steel. They'll use a nice dark wood, or you know, or stag or ivory, and but I like the way those are coming out. And but yeah, that's it. I got anvil sitting around. I haven't got mounted yet. I just went to Missouri and got this one not long ago, and I've used it to see how hard it was sitting on a block, and it's a good hard anvil. So now that's what I was doing when you pulled up. I was working on getting my metal stand started for it. So I'll have it mounted before too long permanently and find it a home.
Very nice.
Yeah, I plan on going on this side where you see a little bit of space open, and I'm going to put a forge that's dedicated to charcoal.
Okay.
Because I want to.
Very cool.
I got some rings or tubes around here I'm going to use to start making my own charcoal.
Very cool. Are you going to do that? You going to make that a side blast?
Yes. I want to make the Japanese
box bellows?
Box bellows.
Okay, so you really enjoyed seeing that set that Chris brought
Yeah,
by.
and I'd always considered the box bellows because, you know, I watch the YouTube video of Mr. Chickadees too. You know? And but it's a lot simpler to build than the bellows you're undertaking.
Yeah, Chris says they're not so simple.
Well, I know. I ain't saying simple. I'm saying maybe I should say more compact.
There you go.
I think the bellows you're building, you have to have quite a bit of room, don't you?
Take a lot of space.
I think most of them hang them from the ceiling.
Yeah, mine are going to go up in the peak of the roof.
Okay.
So.
And,
Well, very cool. Well, thanks for showing us your shop.
it's been my pleasure.